Thank you so much for joining us live. This is www.techmake.tv. My name is Tony. It's always a pleasure to have you each and every week as we discuss topical issues as far as Zimbabwean political issues are concerned here in Zimbabwe. We are joined today with a very special guest, the leader of the MDCT, Senator Douglas Mwonzora, who is having us today. Is going to be having a strong discussion on what has been going on as far as Zimbabwean political discourse is concerned. Senator Mwonzora, thank you so much for taking our time to be with us today. We fully appreciate.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for inviting me to your show. I always enjoy discussing with you.
Great. We will shoot straight into this show as we discuss pertinent issues that are going on as far as Zimbabwean political issues are concerned. Senator Mwonzora, allow me to just take you a little bit back as far as these political issues that have been going on. A lot of people still need to understand. I will jump into the current affairs, but in this first segment, allow me to just go back a bit into history to fully understand who Douglas Togarase Mwonzora is, as far as your inclination in the political dispensation is concerned. Who exactly are you, and how did you come up into these political issues?
Well, currently I'm the president of the Movement for Democratic Change Shanghai. I started politics, active national politics in 1988 when we were fighting against the one-party state at the University of Zimbabwe. 1989, I was involved in the student demonstrations, the October 4 student demonstration to be exact. 1991, I was detained in Wawa prison for writing the constitution of the Zimbabwe Unity Movement. In 1995, I tried to stop the presidential election in the last minute at the Supreme Court of Zimbabwe on the basis that the election playing field was not even. I was 25 then. 1997, I argued the Political Parties Finances Act, and we won the case. This is the case that has enabled the MDCT to access government funding since its formation. 1998, I was a member of the National Constitutional Assembly, a founder member. 2000, as you know, 1999, sorry, as you know, the MDC was formed out of three movements: the student movement, the constitution movement, and the labor movement. I was coming from the constitution movement, although I had a labor movement background.
When was this? When you were coming to the MDC?
That was 2000. That was 2000, 1999 and 2000. And specifically, I did not go to Parliament because we were ordered by Morgan Tsvangirai after the referendum that Dr. Maduku and myself should remain to craft a constitution for Zimbabwe that was to be used if Morgan Tsvangirai came to power in 2002. 2005, I contested as a MP for Nyanga combined Nyanga constituents. 2008, I was elected member of parliament for Nyanga North constituency. 2009, I was appointed member of the COPAC as the co-chairperson of COPAC, and that was the project that we did for almost 4 years. 2011, I was elected as a member of the National Standing Committee as the spokesperson of the party. 2014, I won as the Secretary General of the party, a position that I held until 2019. 2020, there was the Supreme Court decision which reinstated me to the position of Secretary General and ordered that the party goes to the Extraordinary Congress. December 27, 2020, I was elected by a vote of 83% to be the president of the MDCT, substantive president of the MDCT. So this is the position that I'm holding. I'm a senator for Manicaland province, and I am the leader of the opposition in Zimbabwe. The leader of the opposition in parliament, in Zimbabwe.
All right. The Senator Mwonzora, there's a part of the history that you rarely talk about. Around up until 2005, you in your political career, you were part of the Muzorewa under the UNC party. You were with him, and you rarely shared this part of history. Are you ashamed of this history?
Certainly not. There was no UANC party in the years that you are talking about. There was the United Party was there in 1997. And I did take an active part in 1997. It is the United Parties that took the government to court over the Political Parties Finances Act, and I was the lawyer. So I'm not ashamed about that. I am not ashamed to have been associated with Bishop Muzorewa, actually, because I don't think that of the nationalists who were fighting for independence, Mugabe was the correct one. So I'm not ashamed about that. So I was a member of the United Parties, which was a combination of the UANC, Zoom, as well as some.
When did you leave party? Where did you sever ties with Muzorewa?
1999. That was 1999, and with the concurrence of Bishop Muzorewa himself, he was no longer going to be contesting, and he liberated us. And I was in the.
How did you liberate us? When you mean he liberated us?
No, he told us to leave. Okay. Yes, he told us to leave and join others. And I worked with Morgan Tsvangirai. I'd worked with Morgan Tsvangirai before. So there is a narrative that I joined the MDC in 2005. It comes from people like Pensai Ruanya, and that is very, very wrong. In 2000, I was a member of the National Constitutional Assembly that was campaigning for the no vote. And in 1999, the MDC was formed by three movements: the student movement, the constitution movement, and the labor movement. I was a member of the constitution movement. We had a labor background because in 1991, in 1992, I was employed by the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions as a legal advisor. Now, there are people who falsify my history. My history is there to see. People can Google about it. They can research about it. In 2000, after the the parliamentary election, we started working on the draft constitution of Zimbabwe to be implemented by Morgan Tsvangirai should he become president.
Just before we go to the Tsvangirai,
I could have been taking instructions from Morgan Tsvangirai if I was a member of another political party. That is not correct. And you will see that I then became the secretary for local government for Manicaland province in 2002. And from there, I was doubling up as the vice chairman of the NCA. And I was a member, I contested elections in 2005 as a member of the MDCT, of the MDC.
Let me just bring you back a little bit. Let me just bring you back to those Muzorewa era, Senator Mwonzora. Are you proud of the service that you did as far as Muzorewa is concerned? And some people still say that you seem to have learned a lot from him, and some of the tactics that you are using today, you may have borrowed them from Muzorewa, who was your ex-leader. Are you proud of your leadership, of his leadership, and the services that you offered to him during those days?
I am more proud of Muzorewa than I am of Mugabe. I don't think Muzorewa committed the atrocities that Mugabe did.
But Muzorewa was used to sell out the battle, to reverse the gains of the independence. Wasn't he used as a stooge?
No, he did not reverse the gains of independence at all. If you look at the history, he was Prime Minister of Zimbabwe Rhodesia in 1978, going to 1979 for that very short period, after which he was removed in the 1980 elections. Thereafter, he was not a significant political actor in this country. He was harassed by Mugabe, he was detained, and so on. And it remains to be seen whether Mugabe was correct or Muzorewa was correct. But unfortunately, we do not have Muzorewa acting as a state president after independence. We have the history of Mugabe. We have the Gukura Hundi. We have the Operation Mrambatsvina. We have the 2008 election violence by Mugabe.
Surely we can't compare Muzorewa and yes, true.
in my estimation.
But whose interest was he representing while he was the leader then? As far as was he representing the interests of the Zimbabweans at large, and were you happy about this service?
Well, look at it this way, and I invite you to read this book, Rise and Walk. It is a book that he wrote, and remember Muzorewa, Stole, and those people, other people who were not pro-Mugabe, were victims of the propaganda by Mugabe, who wanted to rewrite history about himself. And I see a lot of my colleagues within the opposition, Ruanya in particular, Jonathan Moyo and so on, they equate me to Muzorewa, but that's not the real issue. They equate me to Muzorewa on the basis that Muzorewa comes from Manicaland. It's a tribalistic agenda, and I do not have time for that. But the truth of the matter is that Mugabe is no better than Muzorewa at all. In fact, Muzorewa is much better than Mugabe. He did not murder 20,000 of any ethnic group in this country, something that Mugabe did. Now, those who denigrate Muzorewa revere Mugabe. I do not share that with them. And when I worked with Muzorewa after independence, I found him a very sensitive man. I found him a very a kind person. He instructed me to argue the Political Parties Finances Act, and I did that, and the Zimbabwean opposition has benefited from that. He was in good comms with Morgan Tsvangirai. People do not know that. People do not know that Muzorewa wrote a letter to Morgan Tsvangirai in 1998 asking Morgan Tsvangirai that we should work together. That is why you see most of the women in the older women in the MDC right now are members who were in the UANC, somewhere in the Ndonga and so on. The problem with African politics is that whoever wins an electoral contest wants to rewrite history and denigrate other people. Fortunately, I have read for myself what Muzorewa stood for in his book, Rise and Walk. I have read about what Ndabaningi Stole stood for in many of his books, including The Secret of American Success, Africa's Greatest Hope. Right. These are masterpieces. I have not read a book that Mugabe himself has written. So I was in the opposition to Mugabe.
Some people allege that in 2000 you actually ran for primaries as a ZANU-PF candidate. How do you respond to this around the year 2000, that you actually ran for ZANU-PF primaries yourself?
Of course, that is false, and please, can I have the evidence of that? Because obviously those people who go to primary elections appear in the newspapers, and there is a record for that. That is rubbish, that is hogwash. I was a founder member of the National Constitutional Assembly in 1998. And in 2000, I led the no vote campaign in Manicaland province. And I was with Tsvangirai. And what people may not know is that I was actually employed by the ZCTU as far back as 1992. And in 1994, I was part of the drafting of a new constitution of Zimbabwe, the Yellow Draft, written under 4 days with Professor Makamure and Justice Sansole. These are people who want to denigrate others, and these people are people who want to falsify history. Fortunately, my history is very, very clear, and by the way, I'm writing a book anyway, which will detail all that. But my history is there for all to see. I was not a member of ZANU-PF at any given point in time. I've never been a member of ZANU-PF. In fact, I'm the most detained person in the history of the opposition.
Speaking about one of those issues, Honorable Mwonzora, let me take you back to the year 2006, I'm not mistaken. There's been a case against you from the Law Society of Zimbabwe that sought to deregister you as a lawyer, a case where a complainant alleged that they deposited 60 million Zimbabwean dollars and it was not favored to him as a client, and the Law Society of Zimbabwe sought to deregister you as a lawyer because you had acted in an unethical manner. How do you respond to this case that was put up against you, where the Law Society of Zimbabwe wanted to deregister you because you had failed to act in right accord?
I do not remember the case that you are talking about in 2008. I do not.
I may be wrong about the year, about the six. Yeah.
2006. Yes, but there were criminal charges against me relating to a sale of a property. And these, in these criminal charges, I was prosecuted at the Rotten Row Magistrate Court, and I was found not guilty. I was tried by the Law Society, and I was found not guilty. That is why I am a practicing lawyer right now. I was a victim of the machinations of Mugabe's ZANU-PF, who wanted to destroy my legal career. Remember, I was a law lecturer at the University of Zimbabwe. I was a successful attorney, and people wanted to destroy my career. Fortunately, I beat them, and right now I am clean. You cannot use proceedings where somebody was found not guilty against that person. And the Law Society of Zimbabwe, yes, did bring those things, because whenever allegations of that nature are raised and there is criminal prosecution, the Law Society acts. But right now, I have been found not guilty, and right now, I am a practicing attorney.
Is it the same issue that was recorded here, the Law Society Legal Disciplinary Tribunal of December 2016, before Chatukuta, chairperson in Msagwa, or this is a different case altogether?
I am not aware of that. Maybe you can refresh my mind.
Where Chatukuta was a respondent in a registered legal practitioner carrying on the business and practice of legal practitioner under the name Mwonzora. Okay, this one was you. Of the allegations of, I think, let me just quickly read the respondent said, failed to enforce a settlement which had been the charges against you reached between the parties in the pre-trial conference presided over Justice Gowora. Responded in this response to the secretary, negotiated with the purchaser's lawyer on behalf of the client as he left complaining to negotiate on his or leading to a prejudice. And I think, let me just jump to part number 3 of the claim. It says that the respondent was put in funds in the sum of Zim dollars 60 million by the purchaser as top of the initial selling price paid for immovable property. The money was supposed to have been paid by 18 April 2007. See the letters attached. I'm sure this refreshes the memory.
I think you are referring to the same case. It is the same case which was being brought over and over again. And you have also omitted that I was found not guilty by the magistrate court. And that the case that you are referring to before the Law Society Tribunal, the outcome was not against me. But my detractors will always want to point to this. I am not a convicted person. I was found not guilty of the charges laid against me. And how does that get used against me now?
The MDC says they actually bailed you around $20 million towards this. How do you respond to this? The MDC party says they actually helped you and bailed you to settle this debt. How did you settle this?
That is incorrect. I did not pay any money because I was found not guilty. Why should I pay money where I was found not guilty? Why should I pay a fine where I was found not guilty? Whoever is saying it, let them prove. That's a lie. I never got money from the MDC. For what?
So how was the matter settled when the litigant was demanding around $60 million?
I was prosecuted in a court of law and I was found not guilty. The records are there in the magistrate court. The matter was brought before the Law Society. I was not found guilty. And why should I pay when I have been acquitted? Now, this is part of the dirtiness that is coming from my detractors within the opposition, who have failed to put a good account of themselves. They are not tactical. They are not politically savvy, and they have failed in their projects. Now, what do? Every day, they resort to the social media, the Twitter. They tweet more of me than of their own leadership.
Let's just move quickly. I know we are really short in time. I would have wanted this one to be very long, but in the interest of this short time that we already have, Senator, there's been a lot of talk. If I'm to take you back, I know we need to talk about the current issues that are going on right now in Zimbabwe. If I'm to take you a little bit back to your time between Changirai and while you were still in the party, there are allegations that you yourself you once took Morgan Changirai to court, and you were challenging him to court. How was your relationship with the former MDCT leader, and how do you respond to these allegations that you also once took him to court?
I never took Changirai to court. In fact, in 2014, I think it was in April or May or thereabout, Morgan Changirai was taken. 2014. Morgan Changirai was taken to court by Tendai Biti after Tendai Biti had rebelled in Mandela. And it's me who defended Morgan Changirai personally. I went to the court to defend Morgan Changirai against expulsion by Tendai Biti, and I won the case on behalf of Morgan Changirai. At no point.
I was talking about the case where you challenged him after he appointed vice presidents, two vice presidents. You were the person who actually challenged him when he appointed two vice presidents.
Interview me, please. Check your facts. There is no point. At no point did I ever take Morgan Changirai to court. His appointment of the two vice presidents left me still as Secretary General of the party. Yes. And Morgan Changirai himself told me that he was not deciding succession. And he told me the reason that he had made his appointments, and that did not concern me. But he was taken to court by other party members, not myself, not my legal firm, not myself. And if you go to
no role in that whole
absolutely nothing to do with it.
That's what I want you to respond to. What was your role during that issue?
I had absolutely nothing to do with it. He was challenged over his appointments of Advocate Chamisa and Engineer Muzorewa. I had absolutely nothing to do with it. Actually, let me challenge those people who make those accusations to prove their accusations. How could I have taken Morgan Changirai to court and still retained my position, not only as Secretary General? I was a confidant of Morgan Changirai. I know a lot of things that Morgan Changirai did not want other party members to know. And I did certain things that Morgan Changirai asked me to do in confidence. How could he have done that to a person who was taking him to court? At no point, to answer your question directly, at no point did I ever take Changirai to court.
Let's just quickly finish off the issue about your relationship with the late Morgan Richard Changirai. Some say that the reason why you managed to win the Congress versus Nelson Chamisa was because Changirai felt that Chamisa by then was becoming too much of a threat, and they had to look for someone who was a bit weaker to try and terminate Nelson Chamisa. And there were favors, or if not votes, bought towards you so that you won that Congress against Nelson Chamisa. What is your response towards this? Because you only had one constituent that had voted for you, and surely you then came out victorious of that election. And it was also at the instigation of then the late Morgan Richard Changirai, who felt threatened by Chamisa. Your response to this issue?
The defeated always try to find an explanation for their defeat.
I'm not talking on behalf of the defeated. I'm asking about what really transpired.
These are allegations coming from people that I defeated in the election. Now, is it impossible for a person who has got one nomination to win an election in the settings of the MDC? I proved that to be incorrect. I, in fact, warned Advocate Chamisa that I was going to get one nomination and I would beat him by 1,000 votes. I had done my homework. I had done my planning, and I beat him by 859 votes. I was almost accurate in my prediction. Now, I beat him.
Did you buy any votes towards that issue?
I do not even have the money to buy the votes, but I am always accurate in my prediction. In the last Congress, I was asked by Mr. Blessed Mhlanga 2 weeks before the Congress about what my chances of winning were, and I said 70%. A week before the Congress, he asked me the same question, and I...
Which Congress are we talking about here?
The 2020 Congress, the Extraordinary Congress. And Blessed Mhlanga asked me a week before, what my chances were, and I said that I thought the chances had gone to 75%. I went on to win that Congress by 83%. I beat Nelson Chamisa fair and square, and I can repeat that feat anywhere. There was no favor extended to me. Morgan Tsvangirai actually called the two of us in this very office, actually, and told us that he needed both of us. And Chamisa wanted me to withdraw. I said I was not going to withdraw because what I know is that he had manipulated the nominations anyway. And to the extent that during the time of the nominations, I was being prosecuted at Rusape Magistrate Court, and I was not able to attend some of the nomination process.
Prosecuted for what offense?
I was prosecuted for public violence that is supposed to have taken place during the inclusive government in 2011. And as we were going to the MDC Congress, as we were doing these nominations, there was a strange coincidence of the ZANU PF government taking me to court during the time of the nominations. That increased my resolve. There was something fishy about Robert Mugabe's government and its relationship to our Congress, and I was determined to defeat that, and I did defeat that.
Sorry, I'll rush you. We have a lot of issues to discuss, and I know our time is already limited. Pull you back once more time again. Issues of finances and monies. We had them. These same issues were raised against you in the last Congress, where your MDCT executive they were actually saying that they're going to be having a case against you. Reported the police station. It seems the case was reported, and there hasn't been anything or any arrest, and they've been instigating such arrest, but nothing has happened. You seem to be very much in an unfortunate circumstances as far as these monetary issues are concerned. How far did this issue go as far as the allegations of you mishandling the MDC money is concerned? How far did that go?
I don't know, Tonio, but you no doubt have omitted something. And that is that Dr. Cooper wrote to the police that there was no case for me to answer. And it is black and white. She was the acting president. She wrote to the police, I think it was Police Highlands, that I had no case to answer. And
so those were just empty allegations she was making against you?
Absolutely empty allegations. That is why they were withdrawn. And then you then have, as we were going to Congress, there were these allegations again. They resurfaced again. And police were asked to detain me on the day of the Congress. That is the work of competitors who want to be, if I may be unkind, who want to be the stars in the absence of the sun, to win in the absence of somebody who must actually win. And the good thing is that I did not run away from Zimbabwe. I stood waiting for my prosecution. The police have not arrested me because there is no case to answer. Just to come down to the system within the MDC. I am a Secretary General, not a Treasurer General. I was the Secretary General, sorry, and not the Treasurer General. There is no way in the MDC that you can remove money from the account without the other signatories. And our Congress has said that there will be internal audits that should be done on the party finances. Absolute nonsense that I had taken any money. But this is the work of people.
Were those audits done? Were the audits done?
The audits are being done. Yes.
When may we expect the results of these audits?
I am not so sure the Treasurer General is in a better position because I am off that. Because look, I am clean, and my accusers have failed to prove their case even at police level. And they
how is your relationship with the accuser as far as this is concerned?
There was another case, Tonio, sorry, and it related to one member of the security who said that they'd left $6,500 US dollars in this office on the sofa, and that I was supposed to have taken it. These are works of people who simply want to destroy others. These are works of people who simply cannot stand competition. When I beat Nelson Chamisa, there were allegations that I had not won. When I won against the other 3 contenders in 2020, there were allegations again. This is because perhaps people underestimate me. And I was underestimated in 2014, I was underestimated in 2020. And they did that at their own peril. And
let's speak about the underestimating. Senator Mwonzora, you were supposed, or you purportedly wanted to run for the MDC presidency, and we remember the popular video where you came out saying that you are no longer running for the MDC presidency, and you are now leaving such a post to then Nelson Chamisa, and then you chose to run for the Secretary General post. Were you compelled? Were you forced to make such a decision? And why did you change from running from the presidency during that time to going to run for the Secretary General?
Well, first of all, I really did not want to run for presidency. It's not correct. But what
you made a statement that you are no longer going for the Secretary General.
Yes, I had not made a statement to the contrary, you know. But what was happening in the MDC Congress process at that point in time made me not to be very interested in it. First of all, these were nocturnal congresses. People were being paged. My supporters were being harassed and so on. And it was far from free and fair. And I knew also that there was this civil suit because the High Court had made a judgment against Advocate Chamisa anyway. And going to Gweru for that Congress was merely academic. I knew that. But the conditions were not good, and I did not run for presidency. And in that Congress that we went to Gweru, I did not succeed against Charlton Wende because, of course, the electoral result was manipulated, but I did not complain about that because I am not a person who complains when they lose.
I had an interview with you in Gweru. I think we had about 15 minutes where you seemed to be very confident that you're going to be winning, that you did not make all these allegations or complaints about the electoral field not being level. I remember with about 8 to 10 minutes that we had in Gweru, me and you were confident that you were likely going to win this election, and you lost by 2,700 to 700 something votes to a mere new Mafigizolo, Charlton Wende. Was this not an issue of popularity that played in this place?
I think you have forgotten another video that did the circulations of the same day. Maybe it was before, or I think maybe it was after your interview. And where I was complaining about Amos Chibaya letting the whole of Mkoba into the stadium. I think you have forgotten that. But there were then complaints that I raised before the voting was done. But I'm not a person who should explain a defeat. If I'm defeated, I am defeated. If I win, I win. I beat Mr. Chamisa in 2014. He complained that I had been held by Morgan Tsvangirai.
Right now, I want to talk about you. I want to talk about you losing to a small unknown Charlton Wende, 2,700. I'll get there.
Why don't you talk about Chamisa losing with 11 nominations to a person with 1 nomination?
We've spoken about that at the beginning of the interview.
These things do happen. These things do happen. I did not complain after that because it was a political process. I would do something about it as a politician. But if Wende won fairly, so well and good. I also had won fairly before. I could still lose. I have been a lawyer.
That election, you only got about 700 votes. Wende got more than 2,700 votes. What does that reflect to you as a politician in terms of popularity?
The actual number of the delegates is what we are missing here, Tonio. The number of people who came in, who were not supposed to be there, was actually more than the people who were supposed to be there. And that's why you heard me complaining in that video about the people being let in who were supposed not to be let in. But that is water under the bridge. If I lost in 2019 to Charlton Wende, it doesn't mean I'm going to lose in 2023. I've won before and I'll win again.
The question is, only 700 people then had confidence in you and your office against a little known Charlton Wende who got more than 2,000 votes. What does that reflect to you politically? That is my question.
What it shows is that at that point in time, the odds were stacked against me. The election was being manipulated against me in the run-up to the Congress, during the Congress itself. And therefore, I do not really put much weight on that election. In fact, what you didn't know is that some of the leaders were very angry that I got 700 votes. Now, the number of people who went to that Congress who were eligible were a third of the eligible candidates. Now, a third of the eligible candidates will take you to the figure of 700. This is 2019.
How do you substantiate only a third? More than 3,000 people voted in your particular post. Why are you reducing this to a third? How many people should have voted on that election?
I was the Secretary General of the party, and therefore these figures I did have them. I also had the issues of the registers and so on and so forth. But that is water under the bridge. I did not complain about my losing to Charlton Wende because I'm not the type of person who unnecessarily complains after an election. But I've won.
But you complained after the election. That's exactly what you did. You complained. You made a video. You said the odds were against you. There were people. There were buzzing from Mukoba. You complained, but you're saying you don't complain.
You are not listening, unfortunately, my brother. When I made that complaint about the people being allowed into the stadium, it was before the voting. It may have been after your interview with me, but it was before the voting. And a candidate is allowed to do that, must raise those issues, especially with the Electoral Commission. But that is water under the bridge, isn't it? 2009, I will give that to Charlton Wende. They won their manipulated election. There were odds staked against me and so on. But I've won before and I will win again.
One of the issues that made you lose, or as far as we had investigated, is people alleged that you were a sellout then, and you were an issue that needed to be dealt with. Hence, there was not trust within you as an individual. What were these allegations of selling out that were being leveled against you? That you could have been conniving with ZANU-PF and yet to be dealt with at Congress.
I did not hear those allegations. Certainly, they were not brought before me.
I'm privy that.
But if you remember, after the Congress, I was appointed into the standing committee by Mr. Chamisa himself. How would he appoint somebody who was conniving with ZANU-PF?
That leads to my next question. Can you confirm or deny the fact that Nelson Chamisa is alleged to have served you 3 times during the National Executive Council, whereby the other members wanted you to be fired from the party, but he intervened at least 3 times to save you from being fired? Can you speak about this issue on record?
That is not correct. That is not correct. But let me go because you want to run away from the most important thing.
No, we answer everything. I'm not running. I'm worried about your time. I'm here all day if you want.
You have said that I was being accused of conniving with ZANU-PF, of being a sellout. And I'm simply saying that after the Congress, I was appointed to the highest decision-making body by Nelson Chamisa himself. And the rhetorical question is, how would they appoint a person who was conniving with ZANU-PF to that very high position within the highest decision-making progress? Now, you have read, obviously, about what Lillian Timvia said after her defection to ZANU-PF, about what was happening within the MDC. People plotting to have me ousted from the party. Remember, I was not forgiven for having won in 2014, and that was very evident to me. But I was not without support within the MDC itself. And for you to dismiss a member of the standing committee, you need to have 2/3 of the National Council. It was impossible to reach 2/3 in my case, for people to reach 2/3, even if they wanted to remove me. And at any rate, there was a motion to remove me and Morgan Komichi in the standing committee. And it was put to a vote in the sense that each and every member of this complained about my losing to Children Wende, because I'm not the type of person who unnecessarily complains after an election. But I've won.
But you complained after the election. That's exactly what you did. You complained, you made a video, you said the odds were against you, there were people that were passing from Cuba, you complained, but you're saying you don't complain.
You are not listening, unfortunately, my brother. When I made that complaint about the people being allowed into the stadium, it was before the voting. It may have been after your interview with me, but it was before the voting. And a candidate is allowed to do that, must raise those issues, especially with the Electoral Commission. But that is water under the bridge, isn't it? 2009, I will give that to Children Wende. They won their manipulated election. There were odds staked against me and so on. But I've won before and I'll win again.
One of the issues that made you lose, or as far as we had investigated, is people alleged that you were a sellout then, and you were an issue that needed to be dealt with. Hence, there was not trust within you as an individual. What were these allegations of selling out that were being leveled against you, that you could have been conniving with ZANU-PF and yet to be dealt with at Congress?
I did not hear those allegations. Certainly, they were not brought before me. But if you remember, after the Congress, I was appointed into the standing committee by Mr. Chamisa himself.
Right.
How would he appoint somebody who was conniving with ZANU-PF?
That leads to my next question. Can you confirm or deny the fact that Nelson Chamisa is alleged to have saved you 3 times during the National Executive Council, whereby the other members wanted you to be fired from the party, but he intervened at least 3 times to save you from being fired? Can you speak about this issue on record?
That is not correct. That is not correct. Yes, but let me go because you want to run away from the most important thing.
No,
I was.
I'm not running. I'm worried about your time. I'm here all day if you want.
You have said that I was being accused of conniving with ZANU-PF, of being a sellout, and I'm simply saying that after the Congress, I was appointed to the highest decision-making body by Nelson Chamisa himself, and the rhetorical question is, how would they appoint a person who was conniving with ZANU-PF to that very high position within the highest decision-making progress? Now, you have read, obviously, about what Lillian Timvia said after her defection to ZANU-PF, about what was happening within the MDC. People plotting to have me ousted from the party. Remember, I was not forgiven for having won in 2014, and that was very evident to me. But I was not without support within the MDC itself. And for you to dismiss a member of the standing committee, you need to have 2/3 of the National Council. It was impossible to reach 2/3 in my case, for people to reach 2/3, even if they wanted to remove me. And at any rate, there was a motion to remove me and Morgan Komichi in the standing committee. And it was put to a vote in the sense that each and every member of the standing committee was asked, and we won our case. Now, these manipulations that were happening, they failed to catch me. They failed to get me expelled from the party. But I did not complain. I did not complain because as a politician, you do something about it. You do something about the situation. And fortunately for me, there was this court case by Mashawira, which says, let's go to Congress. And I was determined to contest for the leadership of the party at that extraordinary Congress.
No, let me just take you back to that same question that says that, so with all these attempts to oust you from the MDC, are you confirming or denying the fact that Nelson Chamisa himself argued that he had to keep you within the MDC party against the other members who wanted you out?
Well, that's not correct. That's not correct if you understand Nelson Chamisa as I do. And I had no question, I had no doubt whatsoever that he was involved in the machinations. only to want to look like a savior to me. That is his modus operandi, and I understood that. And I know that. I was not saved by anyone. I was popular within the MDC to an extent that it was impossible to secure a 2/3 majority. It was impossible.
So you say these are lies, that some of these members, they who were more than 2/3, they were actually blocked by Nelson Chamisa to try and vote against you outside?
No, I deny that. There was never a vote brought, because people would debate about me. In fact, it was not.
How many times was this done? Just out of interest.
I remember three times in the national executive and in the national council. In the national executive, I basically kept quiet.
Why 3 times people from the same party trying to oust you? Why just you 3 times?
These were factions within the MDCT at that point in time. They did not want me because they felt that I was going to challenge the leader again, come extraordinary Congress. Now, this happens all the time, where you are trying to get rid of other people. And the most important thing as a politician in my position at that point in time was to fight for survival. And I did survive because I knew that I had a critical mass which made it impossible for people to acquire the 2/3 majority. But in the national executive, for example, when they were saying their allegations, and by the way, the person leading the allegations against me in the national executive was Lillian Timvias. And she was sort of the hatchet girl at that point in time. She has confessed that they were plotting this against me. But I did not answer back because the national executive did not have jurisdiction over me as a member of the national standing committee, and I was wiser and I knew that. So I kept quiet. When it came to this national council, which was the same day, the national council numbers did not favor what they wanted to do. When it came to the standing,
are these votes on record so that we can prove them?
The voting was never done. The voting was never done. The motion to expel me was never put. But I am aware that there had been machinations to expel me. But the vote was never done.
Why?
The motion was never put because they did not have the numbers. And when it came to the last day, when we were together here, the very last day, I think it was around 25 March, coincidentally about 6 days before the Supreme Court decision. A Welshman was chairing that meeting, although Nelson Chamisa was there. They tried to put allegations against us, me and Morgan Committee. They could not sustain them. And there was a vote in the sense that people were asked. And the majority said that this was not a proper matter in which any proceedings should be taken against us. Right. We had done nothing wrong.
Mm-hmm. Let's just speak about you, Morgan Committee. I'm sorry I'm rushing you because of the time. You have been tagged that you are a group of losers. Basically, the MDCT is comprised of people who have lost the last Gweru Congress, and they've all came together as a comeback. Is this not a matter of fact that none of you guys who won at the Gweru Congress he has managed to make up of MDCT and you just came back?
It's a very warped narrative. It's a very warped narrative. You can't call me a loser if I won in 2014 with one nomination.
The last election that you happened was the one that you lost.
Again. You can't call me a loser again if I won by 83% in the last Congress. You can't call me a loser if out of 3 Congresses I won 2.
We are talking about the last Congress, not the last Congress.
I won in 2014. I lost, according to you, in 2019. I won in 2020.
You won against who in 2020?
How do you call a person who achieves that a complete loser? Now, what happened after the Supreme Court judgment, it's not a split between what you are calling losers and what you are calling non-losers winners. It was an ideological rupture. What you will see in what happened in March 31, on March 31, on March 31, you will see former trade unionists went on their own way. That include myself, Paulina Mpariwa, Tapua Mashakada, all these people. They were
these are 2019 losers. These are all 2019 losers.
They were not 2019 losers, you know. By the way, the difference we had was that others said, let's follow the constitution, and others said, let's not follow the constitution. Now, here is the secret. What was going to happen in the case of the extraordinary Congress is that the delegates who had voted in 2014 were going to be the delegates of the extraordinary Congress, not the Guero ones. Now, this is what my adversaries feared. I was going to win. Also, the extraordinary Congress was going to exclude people like Walsh Benube.
Surely like you had moved and you had won an election in 2018. Where would you want a status quo of 2014 to guide you as a party in 2019? Because you had won an election very well. You had performed very well as the MDC Alliance, where you won more than 2 million votes. Where would you want them to be guided by a 2014 structure in 2019? How would you agree to that?
The election that we won in 2018 was not an internal election. It was an external election. The election where it was MDC versus other political parties.
Sure.
We were still duty bound to follow our constitution. Remember, there were party members who were disaffected by what happened in 2018 after the death of our leader, the attempts to kill other members, including myself, by burning them in a hut at Womanikwa there. Other people felt that that was wrong. The manner in which power had been taken, the succession had been handled, was a cause of concern within the party. And there was need to set that right by going back to the constitution. Now, there were people who felt that we should go back to the constitution. There were other people who felt, like you are saying, that we should have just been convenient. So there was a dichotomy there. There were those who wanted the convenience and those who wanted to be strictly to the law. You cannot blame me of choosing one of those options. And I think that setting things right was the best thing to do. After all, I really did not understand what Mr. Chamisa stood to lose if we were to go to the extraordinary Congress anyway. What was he afraid of?
Using the 2014 structures or using the 2018 structures?
2018, there were no new structures in 2018. Remember, 2018 was an election against Mnangagwa and the other contestants, other political parties. So it had nothing to do with the structures within the MDC, that election. But once the court ruled that the accession to power was wrong, it nullified the Guero Congress. So there was no longer 2019 to talk about. Now, after the Guero Congress had been nullified, then the Supreme Court said the correct thing that should have been done is to go to the extraordinary Congress using the 2014 structure.